Happy Black Friday, everybody. Today we're going to rank Dynasty running backs, talk about where these 2026 rookie picks would fit into these running back rankings, and talk about the 2025 rookies, what they've done so far this year, and where they have moved up or down in our running back rankings for Dynasty. But it is Black Friday, and so take advantage of our biggest deal of the year. You can get covered for your rookie draft. You can get in a new Dynasty startup or a new league. You can get all of our Dynasty tools. You can get the bakery. You can get our rookie draft guide, and you can get personalized advice from Nathan and I on your Dynasty team. Right now, you get 2 free team blueprints when you sign up as a new member with code DOMAIN, and so you get our best deal of the year. You should take advantage while you can. It's flockfantasy.com/domain. The link's in the pinned comments. Again, if you sign up for the annual Mother Flocker tier this week only, in fact, it's just really Black Friday and we're going to end it, you do get the 2 free team blueprints. We only run this one time a year, so make sure you take advantage. Come join. You also get a freebie when you buy any a la carte team blueprint. So if you're thinking about getting a blueprint anytime soon, do it now and get the free swag box that we're going to send to you, get the free infinite upgrade, or get in a live league for free as well. Take advantage. I got the link down in the pinned comment. Take advantage of all of those deals. Let's start with the S tier. And we've been kind of alluding to this recently, but our S tier in Dynasty Fantasy Football in terms of running backs is going to be Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs and Devon Achane. All 3 of them are in our S tier for Dynasty Fantasy Football running backs. Now, the first 2 are widely accepted as S tier running backs in Dynasty. The second or the third one is not. And in our opinion, I mean, when I'm looking at Devon Achane, he is averaging 20-plus points per game like the other 2. They were all within half a year of age of each other, so he's the same age as he is like 4 or 5 months older than both of them. He has, from a receiving usage standpoint, he's averaging just as many receiving yards as they are. I don't see, and he's doing it all in a worse situation. If that situation does get better for Devon Achane, I don't see why he shouldn't have the exact same value in Dynasty as these 2 guys. Bijan's situation is also not great, and he's still ranked up here. So, maybe a lot of people will have issue with us having Devon Achane in the S tier. But my thing is, I think Devon Achane is an S tier running back in Dynasty Fantasy Football. If you can, in this year's Dolphins, you can average 21.5 points per game as a running back with that level of receiving upside and that floor and that ceiling, man, I just don't know how you can leave a guy like that who just turned 24 years old out of the S tier. He is one of the best running backs to own in Dynasty Fantasy Football, as is Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. Of course, both of these guys are great assets and great running backs and difference-making running backs, and they're going to be first to second round startup picks in Dynasty startups this offseason. So I like them both. I am very high on all 3 of these guys, and I think all 3 of them are very deserving to go in the S tier. There's not a ton of discussion, in my opinion. The discussion starts in the S tier, where my first asset where I'm going to list here is actually the rookie pick 101. And basically what I'm saying by this, because we know the 101 is going to be Jeremiah Love here, basically what I'm saying by this is I think that Jeremiah Love, if I had to guess where he ends up when he's drafted immediately, I think he's right there at the top of the A tier. I think he could be in the S tier. I think he's that good. I'm personally very high on Jeremiah Love as a prospect. I'm higher on him than I was on Genty. But he is a rookie. There's nothing guaranteed. He could go to a situation that's less than ideal, but it's looking like he's going to get top 15 draft capital. And at the point where you have a running back like that getting top 15 draft capital, probably top 10 draft capital, I think he's just as good a prospect as Ashton Genty is, and I think an NFL team's going to realize that. This is where I would take the rookie pick 101 in this tier with Genty, Hampton, and Jonathan Taylor. Now let's talk about the rest of the guys in this tier. Ashton Genty has really kind of come on recently here in the season, and I think it's definitely worth talking about him as somebody who could be climbing into the S tier if he continues this trend. He's averaging 15.1 points per game this year. And so over the entire sample size of the year, there's still a pretty big gap between Bijan and Gibbs and Achane, and then Ashton Genty, about a 5-point per game gap right now. And so if Ashton Genty over the course of the last, 5 weeks of the season can maintain like an 18 to 20 points per game type pace, then yeah, I think it's probably worth putting Genty in that tier with Bijan, Gibbs, and Achane. I do think he's pretty comfortably the next running back drafted right now in Dynasty startup drafts. But I will say, for the 22-year-old, just turned 22, still very young, he is in a bad situation, a really, really, really bad situation, to be honest with you. And for him to transcend that and to average 20 points a game in the rest of the season would surprise me a little bit. I'm going to be conservative and rank him in the A tier. If you'd like to put him any higher than that, I don't necessarily blame you because I see the argument for it. I've also got Amarian Hampton, his rookie counterpart, right behind him. Amarian Hampton, similarly, is averaging 15.4 points per game this year in fantasy football. He is 22.5, so he's about a half a year older than Ashton Genty is, and both of them are the running backs of the future. Now with Amarian Hampton, you saw that 20-point per game ceiling unlocked the last 3 games before he got injured. He comes back this week. And so at that point, you know, we're going to see what Amarian Hampton is made of. I think he has room to climb into the S tier if he has a really strong end to the rest of the season, of course, with a very limited sample size. And then Jonathan Taylor. And Jonathan Taylor is here because he's averaging 25.5 points per game. Obviously, Taylor's age, he's about to turn 27 years old, will be a concern to a lot in Dynasty, but really you should be looking at Jonathan Taylor in a 2-year window, and his 2-year window is going to be very strong. He's probably going to get his contract restructured. I would imagine he stays in Indianapolis, and Indianapolis just straight up looks like a good situation for him right now with Shane Steichen, with Daniel Jones probably remaining there, with all the pass catching weapons that they have. When you have a guy averaging 25 points per game that has a solid 2-year outlook, you can't not rank him in the top, 2 tiers of a Dynasty running back tier list. And so in my opinion, Jonathan Taylor is absolutely deserving of being up here because he can win you a league by himself. And he's, apart from CMC is 2.5 years older than him. So they're in very different spots. This would have been like CMC 2 years ago, right? But he stays healthy. That's kind of what I'm ranking him as here. And so JT in the A tier, I feel pretty solid about. Now, moving on to the B tier here, I will have rookie picks 102 and 103 in this tier. Okay, so this is going to be probably high-end wide receivers like Jordan Tyson, like Carnell Tate, but I think this is about where they're going to fall in terms of their startup draft value. Now, this tier was really interesting because I actually had it a couple different ways, and I ended up including all 4 guys in this tier. 4 guys that I view very similarly from a Dynasty fantasy football perspective. Bucky Irving, he's coming back from injury this week, but when he was healthy this year, was averaging 18 points per game. Bucky Irving still, of course, very young as well. Just turned 23 years old, so I feel very good about him rest of the season, and I feel very good about having him for the next 3 years of my Dynasty team, that's for sure. And James Cook, also averaging 18.5 points per game. I have him ranked up here because he is in a great situation, and he has only been only maintained what he did last year. And a lot of people, including myself, thought that there would be a lot of touchdown regression. He's still scoring 18.5 points per game. He's on such a huge contract now. Like, James Cook is one of the most undervalued guys in Dynasty, in my opinion. And with the production going in there and playing with Josh Allen, I feel like you got to be fairly aggressive ranking him here. And then the 2 rooks, the 2 second-round rooks from this year, I'm going to put Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins in the same tier. Look, as bad as, as rough as the year as it's been for Travion owners, and as, exciting as the year as it's been for Quinshon Judkins owners, these guys are separated on a points per game basis by 1.5 points. And I do realize there are 2 games that are skewing Travion Henderson's metrics in that aspect. But still, it's only, it's the running back 20 and the running back 18. They've been pretty comparable this season when you're looking at the overall body of work. Now, the glaring difference here is over the course of the entire season, Quinshon Judkins averaging 17 carries a game to Travion Henderson's 9 carries a game. But it does look like the Patriots are now starting to give that backfield to Travion Henderson. It's just now week 12, so we'll get a pretty good sample size of what he looks like as a workhorse here later in the season. Either way, they both still are amazing prospects, still really very good players, and I think you rank them here until further notice. Again, the 102 and 103 are in this tier as well with these guys. Now, going down to the C tier, the rookie pick 104, of course, I would probably put here. Again, this is going to be a pretty good pick this year, and I would take the 104 comfortably over most of these guys. Kyren Williams, look, he's steady Eddie, right? He is a low-end running back too, and that's just what he's been for 3 years now. Right? This will have been his 3rd year pretty much doing the exact same thing. A lot of people were concerned with Kyren Williams in terms of Blake Corum maybe potentially taking some of that snap share, but he's the running back 10 still this year, and still getting anywhere from 12 to 20 carries a game. Obviously, the games without touchdowns are a little bit lower floor now just because Blake Corum does have at least a little bit of a role there. But in my eyes, it doesn't affect his long-term value, and he did just get re-signed, and so I like Kyren Williams a lot, and he's a very good flex option for your Dynasty teams. Josh Jacobs, obviously, he's down here because he's a little bit on the older side, right, and has a little bit more mileage. He's going to be 28 years old now. Similar to Saquon in this tier, who's going to be 29, CMC, who's going to be 30. These are the old dudes in this tier. Obviously, the difference between all 3 of these guys is Christian McCaffrey, the oldest of these guys, is averaging 26 points per game. If you are a contender and you can get Christian McCaffrey, I want him. I think Christian McCaffrey could honestly still be in the B tier at this point in his career. The problem is he's going to be 30, and he pretty much misses every other year, and so that's kind of the issue with McCaffrey. Jacobs, on the other hand, averaging 18.1 points per game this year, is still the running back 7 after missing a week, and he's just now turning 28. He's the youngest of those 3 backs. The guy in the middle is Saquon Barkley, and what's interesting about Saquon is he's only averaging 14.8 points per game. Now, I don't want to be completely clouded with my judgment here, just looking at this year and ignoring what Saquon did last year, because that would be stupid. I do think Saquon has in the tank still a 17 to 20 point per game season. So that's why I'm going to rank him here. It's Saquon Barkley. He's on a good situation, but all 3 of these guys are vets, and they're honestly at 3 different tiers of age and scoring, and it all kind of, falls different ways. But, McCaffrey obviously being the most productive, and then Jacobs, and then Barkley. I'm also going to throw Breece Hall into this tier. From a talent standpoint, I think he's more talented than almost every running back in the D tier. and he's going to be a free agent. And so the reason that his dynasty value is going to kind of maintain and stay elevated because he's going to be a free agent after this season. And so I think it's worth putting him in this tier and realizing that his dynasty value is going to go up during the offseason. And so even though he's in a sucky situation now, when he does sign with somebody, and if he signs with somebody good, his market value will go through the roof, trust me. And so I think he deserves to be here as well in this group with the C tier. Also, the rookie pick 105 is in the C tier as well. I don't think I mentioned that. But you'll probably have noticed I haven't mentioned the three factors scores for these running backs yet. And that's because, when I'm looking at the differences between how Nate and I have these guys ranked, how us versus the experts on the site have these guys ranked, and then how the three factors have these guys ranked, there's really almost no differences between the top 18 to 20 backs here. It's very, very all of these guys, I feel pretty good about where we have them ranked. I don't feel like there's a ton of discussion to be had. I think the discussion really does kind of start, even the D tier, I feel pretty comfortable with all the guys being in this tier, and the F tier is where you start having discussions, but I don't want to get too into the weeds. And so we'll just go to the D tier here and we'll talk about each and every one of these guys. And again, I feel like everybody's pretty lockstep on these guys. You can range these guys any order you want to in the tier, but I am going to have a whole host of rookie picks in this tier. The 106 and 107 I'll have the top, the 108 I'll have in the middle, and then the late first I'm taking over everybody in the F tier as well, every first except for the 112. So all of these picks are going to be in this tier. Starting with Cam Scadaboo, obviously injured, but he's expected to be ready for the start of next year, and he looked fantastic. I think the Giants really like him, and I think he's a guy who's going to be very good in the NFL still. And it was a freak injury. I'm not worried about it at all. That's exactly where I have the three factors has him ranked, and so I feel pretty good about his ranking here as a mid running back 2 in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Javonte Williams, kind of the same thing. Actually, Javonte Williams, he's actually the running back 13 according to the three factors rankings, and he's probably one of the biggest discrepancies we've had so far, so I think it's worth mentioning. I think Javonte could be a bottom of the C tier guy if he gets a good deal this year. I really do. And so he does need to turn it back on. He hasn't been near as productive as he was at the beginning of the season so far the last couple weeks. And so there is that part of it with Javonte Williams, but at the same time, if he does get paid and remain with the Cowboys especially, which who knows? That's a big if. If Jerry Jones is going to pay Javonte Williams, I don't know. Regardless, I think Javonte, with his performance this year, has earned himself a contract and a place on a roster as a starting running back. And so because of that, you kind of anticipate the jump in value that's going to come with Javonte Williams and owning him. I think it's probably worth putting him at the top of this tier. Now, RJ Harvey, we're going to see more of what he's made of, but I just am not convinced that he can be a high output fantasy scorer on a week-to-week basis, but he does have second-round draft capital, so I don't want to write him off too quickly. The problem is we've seen a couple weeks now with RJ Harvey when he obviously week 12 with the bye, but Kansas City, one of them was Kansas City. That was really his first week. And so Washington, Las Vegas, Green Bay, obviously Washington and Vegas, you should see kind of what he's made of in those two games. Green Bay and Jacksonville and Kansas City are a tough stretch to end the year. And so we'll see with Harvey. I think his value is going to probably float around this point. Kenneth Walker, another guy that's going to be a free agent. He's actually getting the majority of the carries here late in the season for the Seattle Seahawks. Let's see if that holds. But he is a guy that is going to go to a different team this year, similar to Breece Hall. He's one of the two unrestricted free agents that are big names in my opinion. And I think Kenneth Walker is plenty good. So I think we're going to see a pretty big market value jump for Kenneth Walker once he does sign somewhere. I don't know how good he'll be on another team. I just know that he's going to go up in value, and so I think it's worth ranking him here for sure. Again, the rookie pick 108 is here. Derrick Henry, he's very bad to start at the beginning of the year, but no Lamar, and he's been better recently. I think he's an advantage. I think you give him a clear advantage over everybody in the F tier. That's exactly where the three factors has him ranked, so I feel confident we have him in the right spot. We have Chase Brown a little bit higher than three factors, and so do we have Travis Etienne a little higher than three factors, 3 to 4 spots higher on these guys we are. And there are some guys in the F tier that the three factors are very high on, and we'll talk about. But with Chase Brown and Travis Etienne, it's kind of the same deal, right? They're both very replaceable backs. I think Chase Brown, I feel a little bit more confident in his long-term value, but this is pretty much everybody has him running back 20 to running back 22 on the site. So I feel fairly confident that this is where Chase Brown should be ranked. He could be anywhere from the top of this tier at running back 17 to the bottom of this tier. With Chase Brown, he had a bad start to the year. He's been much better recently, and it's just a matter of if the Bengals, it's a weak running back class, so I think it would be pretty tough to replace Chase Brown, which is why I think I'm going to be ranking him in the D tier here. And Travis Etienne, I just don't know what's going to happen with him, but I do know he's averaging 15 points per game this year. And I don't think he's going to disappear. And so I think, kind of the same thing with Travis Etienne. And then all the rest of the rookie picks here, 109 through 111, and then going down to the F tier here. The rookie pick 112 will be the first rookie pick that we have here. And this is where it gets very interesting, and we can start having some dialogues on some of these guys. You can move these guys around as much as you want. Trey Benson, I feel like we have him accordingly ranked. We're just projecting that he's going to come back starting this week and be, a decent starter and be the long-term starter there for Arizona. Rico Dowdle, we're about 7 spots higher on than the 3 factors rankings. And the same thing, Jaylen Warren. I will say I feel stronger about Jaylen Warren. Although, Jaylen Warren, in terms of his contract, it's actually just a 1-year deal. Like, it's actually not like a long-term deal. So the insulation is not as high as you would think it is. Rico Dowdle doesn't have an insulation because he was on a 1-year deal as well. And so both of these guys are going to be like veterans that have had really good years. It's going to be very dependent on where they end up and what kind of contract they get next year, right? And Jaylen Warren's going to be with the Steelers next year, but Rico especially, like, who knows what they'll do. Chuba's contract as well was kind of a fake one, and so they could just keep Rico in Carolina if they wanted to. Regardless, they're lower ceiling guys that are a little bit on the older side, and I think they're probably going to be your low end running back 2s here. Charbonnet, I think Charbonnet is a good target right now in Dynasty Fantasy Football because if Kenneth Walker does go somewhere else, Charbonnet would be the starter there, and so I think Charbonnet, we have him ranked exactly where the 3 factors do. I feel like we have him ranked correctly here, but I do think his market value rises if Kenneth Walker goes somewhere else. DeAndre Swift has been kind of losing carries to Kyle Monangai recently, and so, it's not great for Swift, to be honest with you. You just know what he's going to be. He's a low-end running back 2 every year, and it's limited value. Bashal Tutin, if Travis Etienne does leave, has some pretty good value upside as well. So we have him ranked here. David Montgomery we have ranked here. He's been a little bit slower this year. Woody Marks is a guy that the 3 factors are a little bit higher on. So if you want to put him at the top of this tier, I think that's probably more so where he belongs. And I definitely think that Woody Marks, it could be a guy that's similar to Chase Brown. They're like, yeah, we'll just roll with him this year. There's not a good running back class. We have other needs besides running back. We'll just roll with Woody Marks. So I think he could be the starter there next year, and so that's why I think I'm going to put him in the F tier over a lot of guys in this last tier here, the G tier, which have a ton of question marks. This is an ugly tier, y'all. But let's just talk about a couple names here. Alvin Kamara, MCL sprain. He's just not looking. Who knows? Maybe he has another good year in him, but he's just not looking like the Alvin Kamara of old. Caleb Johnson is a guy that the 3 factors absolutely hate, and that's mostly because he's done absolutely nothing so far. And so with Caleb Johnson, I still am holding out hope that he could become something there, but I think he's a good throw-in right now. Kyle Monangai, he's the guy taking Swift's carries. I think he has some future long-term outlook if they let Swift go this offseason, and so we'll see how that goes, but I think Kyle Monangai has looked very, very good in his limited action. I really like him as a sleeper pick. Tyler Algier is going to be a free agent this offseason. This is a sneaky one, and one where I think I would be trading for Tyler Algier in Dynasty because I think there's a decent shot he ends up as a starter somewhere, maybe like the Houston Texans. I think he would be a better starter than Woody Marks, and so maybe the Vikings go that route instead of drafting a running back. We'll see, but in a weak running back class year, I like Tyler Algier as a sleeper for this year. Chuba, I think, is a decent buy right now as well. 3 factors, about 7 spots higher. And, I think he's going to probably still have a role somewhere. And that, I think he's probably worth buying because he's so low risk. Tyron Tracy, he's Scadaboo's backup, but that's a very valuable backup role because Scadaboo's obviously hurt right now. Braylon Allen, he could be a guy to target. I moved him way up my rankings just because if Breece does leave, Braylon Allen's probably going to be the starter there unless they draft somebody. Tyjae Spears has some upside. Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt I'm not super high on, but I will say the 3 factors are about 4 spots higher than I am on Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt. And Jordan Mason, the 3 factors are really high on him, and I don't think Jordan Mason's going to do much if he remains in Minnesota, so we'll kind of keep an eye on that one. But again, like really until you get down to like the running back 24 here, Nathan, myself, all the experts on the site, and the 3 factors algorithm are pretty much in lockstep with these guys. And then it's just like the F and G tier, and it's just so like these guys are all worth second-round picks at this point. It's so I feel like we have a very good idea of like the general landscape of the Dynasty running back market. And again, you can fight amongst yourselves about the F and G tier. I really don't care about the F tier or the G tier, and you could arrange those guys any way you wanted to, and I would not argue with you one bit. That's just the honest truth. But I did try to rank them in the sense of like, elevate the guys who could get value bumps this offseason. And so there you go. Again, take advantage of our Black Friday deals. We've got them in the link in the pinned comment. Do us a huge favor. Drop a like on the video. Make sure you're subscribed if you play Dynasty. Hopefully you enjoyed the rankings. We appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend. We'll see you here soon.